That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Saint-Omer, the narrative feature debut from documentarian Alice Diop, which premiered in competition at the 2022 Venice Film Festival, where it won the Silver Lion for the Grand Jury Prize, so basically second place. Neon is releasing it theatrically January 13th, 2023, although it did have a qualifying run. I think it was France's official submission for Best International Feature in that category, so it had a qualifying run at the end of 2022.
This was in your top 10 of 2022.
Very much so, yeah. So I was nervous / excited to have you watch it.
I thought it was very good. The basic story is there is a young woman, I believe she's 24, named
Laurence Coly.
We see her on trial for murdering her child. Mm-hmm. And she admits she did it, but she's saying she's not guilty because something made her do it. So we go through the trial. Mm-hmm. It's very clear that she's going to be convicted of murdering her child, and it ends with her defense attorney making a plea, the closing argument to. We don't see it. No, we do have a jury there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it starts with the jury selection process.
But we never find out what the verdict is. However, another main character is this woman named Rama, mm-hmm. who is a professor, but is also looking to write a piece about this trial. So she has traveled from her home.
Well, she's writing a piece about the Medea myth.
Yes. She's traveled from her home to where this trial is occurring to witness the proceedings. So we see her a lot just sitting in the audience, not saying anything. But we do learn some things about her, which are that her marriage is kind of in a bad place.
Also to a white man. Mm-hmm.
She is, well, you're saying also to a white man because the woman who killed her baby is a black African woman. And she had an affair with this older white man. Oh, they're after us. And then Rama is married to a white man. And Rama is pregnant. And then we also learn that Rama's relationship with her mother is not the best. So they're trying to make a parallel there. But that's it. It's very simple.
It is very simple.
But there's a lot to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Diop, whose previous feature was We in 2021, which is about kind of an intersecting storylines of people meeting on a railway in France. So this is lifted... I think she's lifting very heavily from transcripts of the court case involving Fabien Cabou and also how the press kind of presented her in the media and the fear / interest.
We don't get any of that in this movie. It is strictly we're in the courtroom for 75% of it, just watching the trial occurring. And really the camera's focused on the defendant, the judge, the prosecuting attorney, a little bit of the defense attorney, and then of course Rama. Mm-hmm. I think overwhelmingly what I find great about this movie is the performance from
Guslagie Malanga,
the main lady.
Mm-hmm. And then Rama is Kayije Kagame, if I'm saying that right.
The defendant, the look on her face, the pain we can see, and also the fear. Also, the first 30 minutes we see her, the camera is directly in front of her.
Stationary, yeah.
But she has her head turned to the judge. So we're getting the right side of her profile with some side eye. And she maintains that for a long time. Mm-hmm. And it just is so effective in showing a range of emotions based on what she's talking about. But overwhelmingly my feeling about the story is that it's clear this woman killed her baby because she says she did. And there's nothing she could say that would make us feel like it was justified. So then really it's about what was her state of mind that allowed her to do this, because she clearly planned on doing it. We learn a lot of details, when she became pregnant, she was living in this older man's art studio. Mm-hmm. And she had sort of distanced herself from everyone who knows her. No one knew she was pregnant. No one saw her pregnant. She didn't get prenatal care. When she had the baby, she didn't show anyone the baby. So clearly her plan was to dispose of this baby and no one would question it.
And this man is 57. She's 24. He's married.
With children.
Estranged kind of from the wife. They know about Laurence, but she's they don't know about the pregnancy. She's also estranged from them. She does talk to her mother. That's because the mother shows up at the trial, and we can see she explains that her relationship with her mother is distant, but they would talk once a week. And the judge is like, well, it seems like you're close. And she says one has to call one's mother. And I think one of the motifs of the film is about this obligation that we feel, even though we aren't emotionally connected, specifically between mothers and daughters.
Her main argument is that there was sorcery involved. Like maybe this man, like he had this spell over her, and
someone to put the evil eye. The mother suggests it's since she left Senegal that the evil eye has followed her.
Something. It doesn't make any sense. She's contradictory because the judge keeps saying, okay, you're saying this now, but you told the police when they grabbed your ass something very different. Like something like in the courtroom, she says, well, I took my baby to the beach and left it on the water, and I knew it was like the tide was high, so presuming that the tide would come and drag the baby in. But the judge goes, okay, but you told the police that you walked into the ocean and dropped the baby in there. And then later on, you said you weren't sure that you went into the water, and now you're saying you didn't even go in the water. And she makes other claims, like claiming that she has a bachelor's degree, but really she didn't finish school. And then her argument's like, well, I went to my classes, so I thought I had a degree. Mm-hmm. So it's very frustrating watching her because clearly she's lying. She's scared. She made this decision that was obviously a very poor decision that's going to ruin her life.
Well, I think a lot of decisions, you increasingly get this portrait of a woman who's been backed into a corner for multiple reasons.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is that I think the overall feeling I get from the story is that I feel bad for this woman because her environment made it difficult for her to feel like she couldn't make better choices. So like her parents wanted her to study law, but she wanted to study philosophy, so they didn't support her. Then she had a difficult time sort of being independent, so this older man offering her some support really was appealing to her. And then having a child would have been a hindrance to her for a number of reasons, so she made this awful plan to get rid of it. And so I just felt bad for her. Mm-hmm. It's not excusable, but it's just like, ugh. I could go on and on about how we could make, like as a society, we should make life easier for everyone, like their basic needs, so that maybe people would not do awful things like this.
Right. And there's a component of it too, which is directly addressed, the prosecuting attorney's kind of chastising the lead investigator for putting it in her mind that she could even use this as an excuse of sorcery, right, because of her cultural heritage. But there are she is stuck in this...
That's an important point.
She's stuck in this mostly white... That's the name of the title, is this mostly white community outside of Paris, and having to explain to this community that has no inkling of her cultural beliefs how she could explain to herself what she did, and then also articulate that to people that don't believe that at all, or have similar beliefs but are phrased in different ways.
What's missing for me is I wish we would have known more. Like, I needed to learn more about this woman to maybe sympathize with her more. And then I don't know how effective it was, like Rama's character, but you can talk about her significance.
I really like that because she is tying us into a whole spectrum of angles around this person, because really Laurence Coly is supposed to be, as much as she is an object to the jury in the court proceedings, she is to us. And we're really supposed to be more of the spectator, like Rama. And her own experiences and her studying of the Medea myth, because she actually shows, she's watching in her hotel room the scene from Pasolini's Medea starring Maria Callas, where she murders the children, and what a tender moment that is. Like, this woman, in the story of Medea, is that she was screwed over by her lover Jason the Argonauts because she screwed over her own people. Medea is really a culturally displaced person in Greek mythology, in the tragedy, and how there's... It's not black and white. Even these atrocious acts, it's not black and white. And yet, and I know you didn't like the presentation of it, but I love the defense attorney's her closing statement, to the court, to the jury, that's also shot in a very stationary, head-on way directly into the camera, but about how mothers have a biological connection to their children with chimerical cells, which... and she wraps that up into saying that all women, we're really all monsters. We have these these chimera cells in us that connect us to our mothers and our daughters, and nobody can really understand that but women.
I liked what she said. I didn't like how it was shot because no one is staring directly into the camera for the entirety of the film, except when the defense attorney appeals to the jury, and then she's staring right into the camera, which I felt like, was supposed to be talking to the audience. What I would have preferred, because there is one moment when the defendant, I keep forgetting her name.
Laurence Coly.
Coly. Mm-hmm. She looks into the camera, but really she's supposed to be looking at Rama, and she kind of smiles. And I felt like that should have been the only moment where someone makes eye contact with us, like, do you see me? So that was a choice that was made that I didn't love.
But I want to talk about that moment a little more too, because I really like that moment. Because Rama is kind of going through it, and she's moved to tears by that. But to me, that's that adage of, isn't it Nietzsche, who, if you gaze too long into the abyss gazes back into you.
But yeah,
because she is going through an emotional unraveling too, because she's having to think back on her relationship with her own mother, and how tortured that was, and also about to be a mother herself. She's in this weird transitional phase.
That component makes sense to me. I just felt like it was kind of basic. Like, obviously, this lady sitting here watching this woman who killed her child talk about it, and knowing that she's pregnant and didn't have a great relationship with her mother, like, obviously it's going to stir something in her. I think watching the actor playing Coly is, like, mesmerizing.
I agree.
So, you know what I wish the movie would have been? It opens with everyone walking to the courtroom and saying all the things, and then we just start the trial. And the entire movie would have just been us listening to the defendant talk, the judge asking her questions, the prosecutor sort of, berating her, the defense attorney trying to have the audience effectively, like, empathize with her. I didn't need anything else, because that's how good she was.
Sure.
And how compelling that storytelling was. Also, the way it looked, I really liked how it looked.
Shot by Claire Mathon, who also shot Portrait of a Lady on Fire, Stranger by the Lake, which you've seen, Spencer. Excellent. I love that the costume design too, because how Laurence Coly is on the witness stand, and then we get a shot of the witness stand without her in it. Like, we can't see her or anybody. Like, us as the audience for this woman really don't get to see her outside of that space. But also how she kind of blends into the background, like she is part of this space.
Because it's brown wood, she's brown, her outfit's brown. Yeah, I agree.
But how she's bled into, she is the culture, she is part of the culture, because we're all connected.
I feel like the momentum I would get in the courtroom listening to her speak, and then the judge, because the judge is this woman who, it's clear she's sort of, she's trying to understand, I think, in earnest, like, why did you do this? And she even says, we're here today to understand why you did it, because your ass is going to go to jail. And I felt like that characterization worked really well. So there was a lot of momentum, and I was really into the film in those moments. And then when we would leave the courtroom with Rama and see her walking in her hotel room, I felt like that momentum was lost. Not that it's not done. It's just that I think what I was watching was so great.
Sure, but then
I don't know why you would take my eyes off.
Because there are other components to take into consideration that you just can't have in really the artifice of the courtroom, that I think Alice Diop is really trying to bring into the conversation, such as we see Rama having a conversation with, I'm assuming, her editor, asking about the book, and where we're getting a little more of the Medea stuff. But they have the offhanded comments that suggest, oh, she sounds brilliant.
Yes, you're right. Because that's a story that the filmmaker chose to tell. I'm just saying that I think it would have been such a neat experience to spend 2 hours just watching, like, the greatest hits of this trial, and then as the audience, we're the jury, and then we have to decide. But I think the story inherently is just, it's not really something that you can really debate, because she did it, and there's no excuse for what she did. It's just trying to understand her. So I think it would have been a really novel approach to just have us hear her talk about her life and how she did it, and catch her in her lies, so that we could form our own. That's all I'm saying. But as it is, I think it's very good.
I think that it opens with Rama giving a lecture, and we're shown footage from World War II, where this group of women are being shaved for public humiliation, and the assignment for her class is to relate this to the works of Marguerite Duras, specifically Hiroshima Mon Amour. But she has a statement about humans in a state of grace. Despite the banality even that we've come to in the distance we have from watching these kinds of tragedies, because as you said, like this is something we see in Dateline over and over again. But I think that's what this film is. It's humanity in a state of grace is where Alice Diop brings us into, and that it's a very fine tradition of French cinema as it is, because the whole time I was watching, I was thinking of Henri Georges Clouzot's La Vérité, The Truth, starring Brigitte Bardot as this woman who is on the stand defending her life because she had sex with all these men and one of them dies. But
we need to wrap it up. What would you give this film?
And also, I'd like a statement about Diop making about Laurence giving her baby back to the grandmother, the sea, or the grandmother, the greatest mother, the sea. The mother of us all, right? The mother of the earth. And noting that in French language, the word is the same for mother and sea, obviously without an E on the end of mer for sea. And I don't know, just to me that kind of shit gets me. Anyhow, I give it 4 out of 5.
I would give it 3.5 out of 5. Anything else? Hit the thanks button, listen to our podcast. Bye.